Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hello and welcome to the Dork Forest. It's Jackie Kashian. You know the websites, JackieKashian.com, DorkForest.com. You know the credits possibly, but why don't I say them anyway, just to give credit where credit is due. Patrick Brady is going to fix this audio. Vilmos works on the website, and Mike Rickberg just sang that song you heard. He's going to sing again at the end. The donation button, feel free to use it. February is light. Knock yourselves out, people. And $100 for the year would be amazing. That would be superfan status, and you can get you end up getting a patch or whatever trinket I have lying around. If you already have a patch, feel free to say I already have a patch. And I have some magnets left. And then, of course, there's always merch. Ranger of the Dork Forest t-shirt, which was designed by my nephew, Salmon. And it's got dorky things coming out of the forest. Those ones union made in the United States. And then the Dork Forest, the new Dork Forest t-shirts, both brown and green, available at JackieKashian.com, the merch page. Those are just American made. And those were designed by Brett Chambers, fan of the show and graphic designer. And now begin. I'm sitting here with really one of the initial creators of the safe space of stand-up comedy, Beth Lapides. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Jackie.
The Dork Forest.
I'm so thrilled to be here. I love the way you say that, the safe space. Never heard it described that way.
It's nice. I like a safe space. The Dork Forest is a safe space for people to dork out about what they love a lot.
I feel that. I feel very safe in the Dork Forest.
Do you feel the hominess?
I do.
I had some woman tweet at me yesterday. She was like, she had listened to me on Mary Lynn Ricecup's podcast, and she was like, tell me you were born in November. And I was like, I can't. I could.
But it wouldn't be true.
It wouldn't be true. And I was like, July. And then she goes, I know I'm not supposed to ask. How old are you? What day in July?
Wow.
And I was like, it does feel, did you want to know how much I weigh?
It does feel a little much.
It feels a lot. Do you realize where I live? I'm not supposed to age, and I'm not supposed to weigh anything.
No. Did you tell her?
I totally told her. I haven't heard from her since. So, yeah. I don't know what, she might just be seeing if...
She must be an astrologer.
She's into astrology. I've had an astrology dork on. I don't know what to do with that, except for all I know is that I'm Cancer,
rising.
cuspy.
Oh, cuspy.
I don't know about the
You
rising.
don't know the rhythm. Yeah.
I don't know about the rhythm of the night.
I think we're both out of our zone on this one.
Fair enough.
Although it is I am in my birthday zone right now.
Are you in, what's your birthday zone?
January 10th.
Oh, January 10th.
Yeah.
Andy Ashcraft, January 29th.
I don't know who that is.
That's my husband.
Oh, Ashcraft. I didn't know was his last name.
Right. There's no way to know it, unless I say it a lot.
So he's a double A.
He's a double A. And then we always make fun of, like if we were to breed, and at this late date seems unlikely.
But you never know.
He likes to say things like, what do you think of waffle as a name? And I was like, I don't think of it. What do you think of David? And, he's like, I don't think of it. So it goes like that.
So that's the first key to not having children together is no agreement on the name.
Right. It seems to be. Though when we first got married, there was more talk of it, right? And he was like, and then when it looked like it wasn't going to happen, he was like, it's kind of good because no kid really deserves two bad parents. Two bad cops.
I don't know that would. Oh, I see what you're saying. Two bad cops.
Two bad cops. Yeah. Because we're both super grumpy Magoo around children, where we're just like, yeah, we love you. We can play super fun,
right?
But you have to be a tiny adult, and you have to not
do it. I'm not encouraging you to. I'm actually just in a book. Henriette Mantel just edited a book about essays by women who have not had children called
really?
No Kidding. That will be out on Mother's Day.
Oh, out on Mother's Day. Henriette Mantel, by the way, so freaking hilarious.
Hilarious.
Hard to be Henriette Mantel. People that's how funny. It's got to be hard to be her. Just to be inside and just constantly think to yourself, I am amazing. Cause she is, I saw her do stand up probably 10 years ago, but, people might know her from probably the Brady Bunch movie, right? Mm-hmm. Cause she played Alice.
She did.
In the movie.
Yes.
So, that's where you might know her from. And then you should go find her, because she's awesome.
She is awesome.
And Meryl Marco too.
And Meryl Marco. She's on the show. You're both on the show this Sunday.
Yeah. You do a week. Is it weekly or monthly?
It is weekly every Sunday night.
Every Sunday night.
It has been for many years. We took a breather.
Right.
But then we're back. But as it's been running, it's always,
Uncabaret.
Uncabaret.
That's what it's called.
Uncabaret.
And it's, and it's been going, I was looking at it. You said 91 or you've been
88 actually was our very first show. The way Uncabaret started, it started sporadically. It was not every Sunday at the beginning.
Right.
The very first shows, this is deep archive. We're dorking out, right?
We're going deep in late 80s.
Okay.
A lot of you weren't born. A lot of you
still aren't born. So this is information you'll need when you become human.
Exactly.
When you enter this, physical realm, this will become important. But if you're listening in the ether, I think there's a lot of etheric beings that come to our show.
Well, and before we go into the history of Uncabaret, the ones that are on Amazon?
Yes, we just shot 4 episodes on Amazon.
So is it video?
It's video.
It's not just audio.
No. Full video, full.
So Amazon
camera
Prime.
shoot. Amazon Prime, or you don't need to be in Amazon Prime, and you can just pay $2.99 for high def, or even $1.99 for reg
Rob
def.
Delaney.
It's Rob Delaney, Sandra Bernhardt,
Dana
Gould,
right?
Tig Notaro.
Oh my God.
Margaret Cho.
Yeah, super cool.
Greg Fitzsimmons. Greg Proops.
All of those people have
Jen Kirkman. I'm sure everyone's been on your show.
They've all been on the Dork Forest. Jen Kirkman talked about ghosts. And the UFOs.
Oh, good. Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Wow. Mm-hmm. Has she seen one?
Mm-hmm. She grew up in a haunted house.
Oh my God, I've got to get her on the show to talk about that.
Oh, yeah. Oh. So Uncabaret started 88 and one of the great things that people should know about the show is that in 1988, stand-up comedy, much different than it is today.
Yes.
It was a lot of one-liners and it was a lot of laughs per second.
Yeah. The clock was running and it was
and everybody talked about it. Everybody was like, well, you got to get a laugh every 2.5 to 3 seconds. And you're like, okay.
What you have to do in order to get a laugh every 2.5 to 3 seconds is so hideous. I came out of the downtown New York performance art world and I was like, I think comedy is going to be, I want to do exactly what I do, but make it funny. That's what I want to do. I had like a spiritual awakening that was like, comedy, life is just a joke. You get better and better. And then as soon as you get it, you die. Life is essentially funny. So I am going to
just continue to do what you do,
but make it funny. Cause life is funny. Funny. It's not so serious. Stop taking, and I was funny for a performance artist at that time, but I decided
that is hilarious. It's funny for a performance artist. I don't think you understood. I was also very bendy and sometimes I'd get nude.
Well, I was also tired of people asking me if I shoved yams up my ass, which at the time was, I was just like, I can't say, you're on a plane and you have to talk to the guy and sitting next to you and what do you do, your performance. And I just was tired of doing a job.
Was it easier to say I'm a comic?
No, it's worse. That's because life is funny. That's the joke.
The joke is you don't want to talk to the guy sitting next to you at all.
Probably the good thing to say. I once heard a comedian say that he just tells people he's a writer.
Oh, I always tell people that I'm a line cook.
Oh.
Because there's nothing more boring than a line. No one will ever ask me. I get to say, what do you do? And if they're an insurance adjuster, it's more interesting than a line cook.
I would think there's a lot to say about cooking.
I'd rather be a line cook than an insurance adjuster, quite honestly. Though a weird thing, I went with Maria to Austin, Texas, a couple of weeks ago, just a feature, right? Mm-hmm. And I was flying back and I was sitting next to a guy, and Austin, Texas happens to have a 24-hour local comedy radio station, and they play the shit out of my albums.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Well, I forgot. And then so people come and they're like, oh, I heard you on the radio. I hear you on the radio all the time. And I was like, keep writing.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I sit next to this guy, and for some reason I tell him that I'm a comic, and he's like, what's your name? And I go, Jackie Kashian, and expecting nothing as per usual, but he's from Austin.
Oh.
So he's like, are you, and he loses his, I thought he was making fun of me. That's how he was like, you're Jackie Kashian.
Oh, that's funny.
I was like, funny. Yes. And he's like, I've heard all of your stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. You're from Austin.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's so incredible.
So,
I have that experience a lot. Oh, cause I feel like,
you're
Uncabaret and my name and
huge.
in Los Angeles and, some in pockets, it's a funny kind
of. It's very pockety.
I have a very funny kind of, and then also, I did the Sex and the City episode, so my face is very known from that.
Which episode did you? I never had.
I was on the episode where she meets the character played by Baryshnikov, who's her last.
Oh,
I was
one
the
of the
performance
boyfriends.
artist.
Oh, that's
at
awesome.
the gallery. So it comes back to the performance artist because it was this amazing thing. They flew me to New York to play this performance artist who was a real performance artist. They actually basically
They wanted performance art.
Yeah, they licensed this real piece that she did, which was sitting in a gallery looking at people for like a week or something. And
Why
it was
didn't they
very,
get her to do it, I wonder?
well, it's Hollywood. And I don't know, she might not have wanted to do it also.
I'm looking for a Jackie Kashian type.
Which
Nope,
apparently,
Jackie Kashian
I just
available.
met somebody who knows her.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And they were like, oh, she has to meet you. She loves that episode
That would
so
be the
much.
greatest
Yeah, so I want to have her
worlds
come
collide.
do, because Maria Abramowitz, and she's quite known. I mean, she's quite well known.
Okay, I'll link her in the notes.
So I think I'm going to try to get her on the show. That would be very funny. And try to get Michael Patrick King that night. We'll have a whole little reunion.
Good Barrett. Greg Barrett.
And Greg also.
Right.
And all the girls who worked on Sex and the City. It will be beautiful. Anyway, so in the day, 1988, where, so I find myself entering comedy, in New York at that time, and I was just completely flummoxed at not just the laughs per minute sound of it.
Right.
But the topics, I was like, is this really what people are really talking about? I mean, I just seemed so 1950s. I was like men and women being different and New Jersey and
Men and women are different.
I know, but not in that way of like,
No, I know. But yeah, I know. I mean,
like toilet paper under, over,
Right.
It's
right.
like,
And why do women use so much toilet paper?
I don't know. It was just like, what?
It felt
so old fashioned.
And not real.
At the time I was such a so anti-authoritarian, and I was walking around New York wearing men's suits, and people were like,
Hello,
are you a
Annie
lesbian?
Hall.
And I was like, no, but I am a dyke, pockets and power, and I don't know.
Own it. You create your own orgasm. You know it.
I
You
know it. And, but then I had, anyway. So anyway, at the time, and then I came to New York because my partner was to LA, and then got an agent, blah, blah, blah. And then when I got here and started going to clubs, it was even worse. I mean, at least there was still New York and downtown New York and the work, and people were very,
It felt
I could
more
find
real.
some pockets of experience that I understood.
Okay.
There were a lot of people working that I really admired as comedians. I mean, it wasn't like blanketly a horrible. New York just has sort of a pure kind of aesthetic. It's more about the work, and Hollywood is so.
That's the theory anyway. Which,
Well, at least it was at the time. That was my experience.
And it can totally feel like that. New York and LA. I mean, that kind of thing. Yeah.
So, I mean, everything's Hollywood now. I mean, you can't really escape it. The world has really changed. But at the time, so when I moved here, and I was just like, everything is a showcase. Right. Oh my God. There's nothing but showcases. And it was, everybody wanted to get their 10, it was the tight 10. Do you remember the tight 10? Everybody was just doing the tight 10, and everybody was trying to get their sitcom on the air and get discovered with their tight 10 to get on Letterman with their 3 minutes to get on blah, blah, blah. And it was just like, I have a hard time saying the same thing like twice. So it was really, and I remember I did my audition at the Improv here, and I used to have a joke. I loved this joke so much. It was an abortion joke.
For or against? Let's hear it. I want to hear it. No.
I used to come on stage, and right before I went on stage, I said to the guy who was running the room, I said, so I can't remember what it was, 6 minutes or 4 minutes or 7 minutes. And he's 7 minutes. And he was like, well, however long it takes. Like, obviously you're not going to do well. And as soon, however long it takes. It was just like,
oh my God.
Whatever.
Very supportive.
Just very, whatever. And, so I get on stage, I go, no, I'm not feeling that well today. I had to have an abortion. Well, I didn't have to have one. I wasn't pregnant or anything. I just figured, I had the time. I had the money. I may as well get one while they still let us. That was my abortion joke. And it's a good joke, but it's not a good opener.
No,
Which I was very...
Not unless you follow things with even darker.
Yes.
Not unless the entire set's going to be at that level of dark.
Right. And I have, the sweet girl...
Right. There's a tearful Beth Lapides
in there also, but I was always afraid to sort of be that... I don't know. So anyway... I did, I got spots when I was working. I never worked at the
love
Improv.
that tone of voice. It worked. People liked me. I don't understand why.
I was working. I just wasn't working at the Improv. I was working at the Comedy Store, and then, and it was just sort of awful. There was like one night I followed Andrew Dice Clay at the Comedy Store, and I hated him, and I hated myself, and I hated the audience for doing it. And I was like, there's gotta be a better way. And I was doing like middle spots at like, on
the road and stuff, or?
Yeah, like one horrible one-nighters. And at the same time, I was still doing my one-person shows and touring them to like art spaces.
Right, to people who got it, or at least were willing to listen.
Yeah, I was like completely schizophrenic. I was like doing these horrible comedy gigs and then these sort of, lovely art world gigs.
Yeah.
And I was like, isn't there some way to...
How can we?
I just was like, there's some sort of authentic merging of these two different... It doesn't feel right to keep... It was... So at the time I had a show I was doing called Globomania, and it was very close to when the image of the globe starting to be used as a symbol to sell things.
Oh, really?
Like cars. Like they started to put like the image of globes in like car ads and beer ads. And it was like, we were just becoming world conscious. It was the time when like that image from Earth above.
Yeah.
I mean, it took a while for that image.
But it was a big advertising
It became very,
campaign?
just everywhere in the zeitgeist, you were starting to see
interesting.
that image. Like it was.
And that was in 90 or like?
That was like 87-ish.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And, I did this show called you were drunk?
Yeah, I was drunk. So, but it's fine. 87, I was in college, so I didn't have a lot of self-awareness. And,
well, I was cursed with self-awareness at the early age at 5. This is very not on cabaret, but I was in the hospital when I was 5 and for a period of some time. And, I'm convinced that, people have sensitivity. I can never tell if it's people who are get sick because they're artists or you're sick and then you're made into an artist. But this early childhood illness shapes a very self-aware, hyper conscious personality. I've talked to many artists who spend time in the hospital as children.
well, I think there's a lot of solo time if you're in a hospital. There's a lot of downtime to just, you're tied to a bed.
Yes. Well, actually, I wasn't.
Are you willing to say what you had?
Yeah, sure. I had an immune deficiency disorder.
There you go. Okay.
Called idiopathic thrombocytis purpura. So I felt fine, actually, and it was very disconcerting because you're in the hospital, but you feel fine. You're like up and about, but they're taking your blood all the time, telling you it's not going to hurt. But it does hurt. So they're lying.
Full of lies.
Yeah, full of lies. So early on, you think, I've been told it's important to tell the truth, but they're lying about pain. So then the one thing it's okay to lie about is pain. It's okay to lie. Pain is worse than lying. That's what I learned as a child.
Wow.
So as a comedian, I mean, this is sort of my spiritual path as a comedian, is the sense of like converting, like accepting the pain, converting the pain into comedy. That's sort of where I am spiritually with the path of being a comedian. Tell the truth. It hurts. It's still very hard for me to, I mean, even though the cabaret is so much about like truthfulness and, I am somebody who often, it's like, it's my own challenge that it's like hard for me to talk about the stuff that really hurts.
Right.
So,
but that's some of the best comedy.
That is, it's just pain plus time. We all know, blah, blah, blah. So, and that was the challenge of Uncap because I was doing it every week as the host. It was like pain plus time, like how I would
There was
sometimes,
no time.
Yeah, I always had to be in the week. So it's like, well, this week is really bad or it's really great. Whatever it was that week I was talking about it. So my sense of like being able to give it time and then digest it and then come up with it was never that great. So it was a very, I've always envied the performers in the Uncabaret. I've always thought, I wish I was one of them. And people go, well, just be that. You don't have to host. It's like, well, I do. That's my job. It'd be like saying to you, you could just be the guest on Dork Forest if you want. Right.
Which I've done a couple.
Have you?
I've done, they're
and
Dork Origin. Dork Origin shows is what they're called. There's one, Andy hosted one and Maria Bamford hosted one.
Your best friend.
So, yeah. So they were just like, well, I want to talk to you about your dorkdom. So, I mean, it isn't easy though. It wouldn't be easy because then you're like, well, the entire show is that I host this show and I allowed this venue to exist
and make
in
this space.
Yeah.
So if I'm not making the space, then.
Then then someone else has to make the space.
And if I'm not there, then maybe, but anyway, blah, blah.
Right.
So, it's hard for everyone. So
everyone has their
everyone
issues.
has something.
It'll be
So it had in the origin, as you bring up the word origin. So in the origin, and two things. One is in the hospital. I remember the kids were playing with needles. I mean, not needles, but the cases playing doctor.
Oh, right.
And I was thinking, God, can't they play something besides doctor? I mean, we're in the hospital. I mean, use some imagination.
branch out.
Come on, house, school, anything. But I was younger and I started watching them play, sitting in the hall. And then I remember being in the comedy world thinking, God, can't it be different? I mean, do they have to do it this way? And I flashed back to the hospital thinking like, oh my God, I'm just doing the same thing as I did in the hospital. Like, if you want the game to be different, like, make a different game.
Right.
Like, play a different game. Like, you don't have to just watch. So it's like, okay, I'm going to figure out a way. And it was sort of, and that was, what was that? And it was, I can't remember that club's name, but, and I remember I was doing Globomania. No, this was just a comedy club. The one that was out in the valley. Anyway, whatever. And, we'll edit that out.
Well, everyone lives somewhere else anyway, so don't worry about it.
So anyway, I remember I showed the guy at that club the card for Globomania, and he was like, "Oh, Globoman." I was like, "Oh my God, I'm working for people that can't even read, or I have to do something else." So then I did the show at this place called the Women's Building.
Okay.
And you won't know it. It's defunct now, but it was a little art space. I was touring to London, and I was blah, blah, blah. Anyway, they were laughing too hard. One of these nights when people think you're just you wish you were that funny.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I was like, when was the last time you guys laughed? And they're like, oh, we don't laugh because, we're women and we're artists and we're lesbians. And if we go into comedy clubs, they just make fun of us.
Oh.
I said, I'm going to make you a show when I get back from tour. Yeah. It's going to be unhomophobic, unxenophobic, unmisogynist. It'll be the Uncaberet. And that was how Uncaberet was born, there was this formed audience who wanted to laugh, who wasn't being served by comedy. And I knew that, it wasn't just me. I had made friends in the comedy world. People were frustrated. And then I see that there's this audience and I'm like, I'm going to make
an audience.
I'm going to make something happen here. Here's an audience that doesn't want to go to comedy clubs. There's people in comedy clubs doing what they don't want to do. So I started to book the show actually there at the Women's Building. Mm-hmm. That was its first venue. And at first it was just like whatever you want. And then Taylor Negron, Judy Tolan. Then they lost their funding. Then Taylor Negron, Judy Tolan. I did it at Highways Performance Art Space for a couple of months as a run, just the three of us. And then I took a break to run for First Lady. And then when Luna Park was opening, Jean-Pierre called and said, "Do you want to do something?" And I said, "I want to do, this comedy night," because I was still sort of going back and forth. And
you've glossed over something.
What is that?
You ran for First Lady. What the fuck is happening? What's happening? I'm sorry.
I ran a campaign to make First Lady an elected position. It was quite successful.
Is that on the interweb? Can I link people to that?
You can. It was, it was such a fun media campaign and it was in People magazine and blah, blah, blah.
That's hilarious.
Had good, the idea basically came from a joke, which was,
best ideas do.
I was like, she works really hard. Mm-hmm. So we should pay her.
Okay.
But if we're going to pay her, we should get to pick her.
Oh, there you go.
Let's pick her. Let's pay her. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that was my motto. Let's pick her. Let's pay her.
Oh, excellent.
And then it was a whole, I've worked it all out, where she would live and he would live and it could be a man and, blah, blah, blah.
What, okay. So when Jean-Pierre, when you did Luna Park, what year was that?
I think that was like,
94.
When was
95?
the election? 92.
It would have been 88, 92, 96.
92.
Okay.
So, as soon as that was over.
Okay. So
92.
In 92 sometime.
Yeah, 92 was Luna Park.
All right.
And,
cause I moved here in 97 and I heard about the show.
Right.
And people were like, "Oh, you should get up," because my stand-up has never been laughs per minute.
Yeah. Well, you're such a storyteller.
I'm very much a storyteller. And so, when I moved here, I started doing Largo and I did Uncab one time and I did a bunch of coffee shops and I went up wherever they would let me go up.
Right.
I didn't want to do the Comedy Store because I knew too many people who came up that way and they were all gross. I didn't like them.
It kills your, I was like, it's making my comedy worse.
It felt brutal.
Yeah.
It felt too much. And it was super hard.
Yeah.
You know what's not hard? Going to open mic. You know, it isn't hard going to coffee shops.
Really?
I can do that.
A lot of people can't.
Yeah, that's it. That was the thing. And so a friend of mine, a great comic, a really, really good comic, and now a writer and a producer and creator of shows, a guy named KP Anderson, Minneapolis guy. When I first moved here, I lived here about a year and less than that. And he was like, you know, I want to do all those alt rooms, but I don't know what is alt comedy. And I couldn't describe it because I was just doing it, I guess. And so but I did say, and I've said this before on the Dork Forest, which is alt comedy for me was essentially, I would just tell the story of how I came up with the joke, and then I would tell the punchline. And I was like, you could try that, because that's how I do it. But that's how I do all of my jokes. I tell the story of how I came up with the funny, and then I tell the funny thing. And then the joke is over. Or I sadly put it in the middle, and then I keep talking, and then I might want to rearrange that later, because that's not how it goes. But it's so interesting. Like Janine Garofalo, watching her do, I think it must have been in like 2001 or 2002, I was at a show with her, just some alt show, and she was like, I don't have anything to talk about. I had to go buy a CD today because I didn't have anything to talk about.
Right, exactly.
And I was like, go to the vault, man. And she's like, I don't want to go to the vault.
It's going to the vault.
The vault bores me.
Yes.
And you're like, well, that's too bad. Because sometimes the vault doesn't bore me. You know, I was like, you went out and you were talking about Tiberius and how, we went out and looked at
yes.
Tiberius, and you were like, a 15-year-old animal. That's what you want.
Yes.
You know, you want an animal that lives to be 30, right?
See, avoiding the pain. That's me.
That's you
You're
avoiding.
not going to have to experience this pet death.
Exactly. Pet death. And I do a very long bit about pet death and about how you should pick a turtle.
Right.
Because then you're in for the duration.
Right.
And it's funny because when you said that, I was like, has she not heard that bit? Because that bit is everywhere. No.
I don't know comedy at all. I have
I'm
also
over
no
it.
memory for my own material or anybody else's. And you know,
that's nice.
When I can hear
this
things.
Sunday, I can do it again.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Sometimes when I'm hearing it again, I'll be like, oh, I think I've heard that before.
Right.
But if it what I do have a sense, I'm sorry to say, is the feeling of material that's been done before.
Well, you can hear the
I can
cadence
always
and
feel it if somebody's, even if I haven't heard it, I'm like, oh, this isn't fresh.
Right.
It's like that's, you know, even though you haven't had a piece of the stale bread before, you can taste that it's stale. That's
like,
what I have. I have a good sense of that.
This has been done too many times.
Yes, you just sense it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And sometimes, you know, and even in the day, you know, it took a little while to figure out what Uncabaret was, even though I knew what it wasn't. And I remember very clearly Scott Thompson from Kids in the Hall was there for the first time. Very first time he was going to do it, and he had this bag of, you know, with his wig in it. And I was like, Scott, no wigs, no characters. Like, that's our thing. Like, no characters.
Oh, wow.
No characters. And he was like, I haven't. And he had seen the show a million times. He threw such a freaking fit. And so I said, all right, here's the deal. You can bring the wig on stage. So we made this deal. He could bring the wig on stage and talk about how I wouldn't let him use it.
Right.
That was what he did.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Good. Because that's hilarious.
That was hilarious.
Yeah.
And, so, you know, we kind of worked out, you know, what it was as it went on, but partly it's the audience is such a huge part of what Uncabaret is because
are they the same people that have been coming?
Well, we have
15 years?
people who have been coming for 15 years.
Okay.
But we have new people every week. I mean, there's always people in the audience who it's their first time.
Okay.
And there's always people who have come for, forever. And then there's people who are in this rotation.
Yeah.
Cause after Luna Park was M-Bar, actually HBO Workspace, Knitting Factory, M-Bar.
Okay.
Was sort of
and now you're at some fancy
and now we're at a
restaurant
venue called First and Hope.
First and Hope, which is a very glamorous, Beverly Hills restaurant.
Except it's downtown.
Is it downtown?
Yeah. Bunker Hill, in fact. Downtown, it's on the edge of downtown Los Angeles.
I have a GPS, and so
and
the world is this big. The world is the
you don't
size
know where
of the
you are.
palm of my hand.
You just follow the path.
I'm just following that pink line.
No, it's downtown, and it's very easy to get to on a Sunday. Zero traffic. If you're on the east side of Los Angeles, it's literally 10 to 15 minutes from wherever you are.
Yeah.
And,
even from here, which is Van Nuys,
Yeah.
it's not more than
freeway
20, 25
easy.
minutes. Yeah.
And the parking is easy, and it's right across from Disney Hall and the Music Center. It's in a really lovely little cultural. Anyway, it's a fancy one. Partly,
The food is excellent.
the food is excellent, and the room is a great performance room.
Yes.
I mean, there's a restaurant, and then there's a separate performance
It's a separate
room.
space with its own bar and
It's a little
own,
speakeasy.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a little speakeasy.
It's not anything like, yet it is exactly like JR's in Valencia,
All right.
which is in a Marie Callender's.
Oh, wow.
And they have a separate room with its own bar, and there's been stand up there for 15 years.
Yeah. It's
And,
very contained. It's small. I mean, it has some things make a good stand-up room, a low ceiling, as you know.
Sure.
Good sight lines, warm, comfortable, good chairs.
Right. All of a sudden, it's a Todd Glass discussion. Have you ever talked to Todd Glass about what's needed to make a good comedy room?
Oh, no, I haven't.
He's like, the music cannot be loud. It cannot be loud. It has to be peppy, but
Yes,
not loud.
peppy.
The lighting, very important. People need to be able to see their menus, and yet I don't need to see them. And
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's all this, it's all of that. And
it feels very specific.
It's very specific. And so, there's a place for comedians, but not to go away. There's all this different stuff. And so, I mean, partly it was seeing this room, they wanted me to do something in the room, and I'm coming up with like a million different ideas for what to do. Maybe I want to do this project or that project. And then Mitch Kaplan, who's the musical director now, was like, let's do Uncabaret. I was like, I'm so done with Uncabaret. I just said, I'm done with it. I've done it. It's over.
Right.
And he's like, no, we'll do it. It'll be different. We'll do music with it. And, and
the music is different. You got like a band behind you.
There's a band. It's more it's a little less loosey-goosey. And,
but the organization is nice, and it still feels like a safe space, because the audience is very much, they're like, where do you want to go?
Yeah.
Let's go there.
Right. This is the audience issue. And so one thing is the audience, when we started on Cabaret, there wasn't anything like this. So I was working my Rolodex, come to the show, and I literally had friends saying, I hate stand-up. I hate stand-up. Like, people were just like, and I kept going, it's
all your theater friends who are like, no, I've seen it.
And like
it's
my
terrible.
screenwriter friends and, all my friends, really, pretty much.
Everyone you'd ever met.
Everyone hated stand-up.
My family's like that.
Yeah, I hate stand-up. I'm like, I get it. I kind of hate it too. This is different. So like one by one, but then what started happening is people started loving it, and people started bringing their friends back.
Yeah.
And then you start realizing, oh, we can't repeat material. And now I don't want to book a billion different people. I have the people I like. They're my friends. This is what I want to do. I like this kind of comedy.
Right.
And so then it's
You're
like,
fascinated with the 20 people that you're like, what's the next thing happening in your brain box?
So then I was like, so you just have to keep doing new stuff.
Right.
So
you're like, I'm sorry, Margaret Cho, stop it. Let's talk about something new. And she's like, I'm in.
Yeah, that's what, and then because of that, the back mic developed, because people were talking about new stuff, and I was having questions, and I essentially was the audience. And, one of the things, this is maybe, in a technical way, one thing that stops people from laughing, I started to see, was a question. If anybody ever has a question, they can't laugh. A question will keep people from laughing.
Okay.
And so if you're Julia Sweeney and you're talking about blah, 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 and, and it's like, in 1985 when my house burned down, blah, 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 and people can't go blah, 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 because they're like, wait a minute, your house burned down in 1985.
What I just did is I just did that to you. I was like, you glossed over something here. What happened?
The first lady.
The first lady thing.
Exactly.
So that's where the back mic came
That's where the
up.
back mic came. I was just in the room, and I just had questions, and it wasn't like a formulated, like, I know I will have a back mic and ask questions and keep it in the moment. But then one of the other things that really, it always takes more than one thing to make something happen. So there was, Luna Park being available, and it was a really great room. I mean, in the analysis
of a room.
Space. But there was also a thing where you walk downstairs to get into it. So there was a little bit of like entering subconscious territory.
Oh,
and also on the staircase, you faced a big mirror. Mm-hmm. And then you turned away from your image and walked downstairs. So it was really like ego letting go into subconsciousness. And there was no dressing room, so the performers were in the room, and it was always a little too small. And there's a lot of things that made it a great room. And
see, the weird thing is that there's so many comedy clubs that are in basements, and I never thought of it like that. I always thought of it as, it's got that good dank. It's got that good crowded, weird dank that I like so much. But that's exactly what it is, I think, is like you go down into this like other space and you're like, now I am away from the world.
Yes, it's safe.
Yeah.
And you know, it's interesting because I think one thing we really struggle with now is it's harder to have a safe space. I mean, I was talking to Tim Bagley the other night and he was like, I was on the show last week and so much fun. And he was like, you know, really, when I did it the other week, Laura Keitlinger was on and it really felt like the old days. And it's just like so much harder to have that feeling of safeness now because everything's recorded and I don't want things to, you know,
and expectations are so great.
And he was like, and there's certain things I want to say and I don't want to have them get out. And I mean, I struggle with that all the time. It's like, you know, what can you say?
Right. Because everybody is recording and you're like, you can tell them not to record, but, and you know, it helps not to be famous, but you have a lot of people that are kind of big in their fields.
Right. Well, I do. I mean, I'm in the back of the room, so I am always keeping an eye on people. And we do have a lot of people watching the room. And, you know, people have had their own people record them.
Right.
And, you know.
Yeah, that's different.
But,
yeah.
You know, I'm knocking on your dorkwood.
Yes.
And, you know, so far, so good.
Yeah. Because, well, I mean, that's been discussed ad nauseum, no doubt, but there has to be a safe place for right now, somewhere in the world, hundreds of comics are offending someone.
Right.
Because, someone in the audience said something that made them furious, or they're not listening, or they're not good at it yet. There's, you know, I mean, because there's a level when you get to in stand-up comedy where you don't have to start yelling racial epithets,
right?
Or
Greg Fitzsimmons, I'm sorry, did a great set on the Amazon episode he's on about the rape, you know, incident, and he has
rape incident?
You know, the incident at the Laugh Factory. Yeah.
I actually do not know. Was there rape at the Laugh
No,
Factory?
you know, where Daniel Tosh. The Daniel Tosh rape heckle.
Wow, incident. Very current. Because that just happened like 2-3 months ago, max.
So he has this thing on the episode about that, and then why rape can be funny, and and he has a whole list of things that should never be talked about, and then he goes through that list.
Excellent.
On the show. He had a great set. Oh my God.
Greg Fitzsimmons is genuinely one of the funniest guys.
He really is.
I've never seen anybody be as filthy as him and have old women just laugh and laugh.
Yeah, he really can get away with it.
He can get him and Doug Stanhope both have a real gift for making people that are like, what is happening? And they're laughing, and he's talking about horrifying things.
I think it's partly because he is truly so smart. I mean, he's actually a very, very smart guy. So even though he's doing it, there's an intelligence behind it. And you can almost see that he's judging himself for doing it. Like, you know, he's done dirty stuff at the Uncaberet, and then he'll go, like, why are you forcing me to do this? You know, midnight Friday night at a comedy club material. I've got to talk about politics. You know, he's always like trying to get to the other stuff.
Right. He wants to rise above it all, but he's so funny because in many ways, he's incredibly smart, but he's also very simplistic in the way that he's just like, this is also hilarious.
Yeah.
And I have to talk about it. But I think you're right. You can feel him judging himself.
Yeah, or something. Yeah.
There's something that pulls the sting out of it somehow.
Yes, he's not so salacious. And that's the other thing that I think I've always looked for performers who are very three-dimensional. To me, you know, when Greg does salacious material, it's three-dimensional and he has this other thing happening.
There's more to it.
Yeah, there's people who have conflict I'm always interested in. People who have warring parts of themselves, brilliant people who are self-doubters.
Right.
You know?
Right. People who are willing to scrabble around in their own brain boxes and find something interesting to talk about are my favorite comics.
So it's like, you know, that's that. And I mean, you know, people talk about alt comedy a lot and what it is, but there's so many different shows and different kinds. And I just think, you know,
there's alternatives to all kinds of alternatives.
Yes, that's the thing.
That's the beautiful thing of it.
Yeah. So Uncaberet is always very percolate. I was in Minneapolis in my early performance art days.
Have you ever met a woman named Leslie Ball?
No.
She does a show called Balls, and that was the it's a variety show. Like you can see lesbian dancers or Native American drummers or lesbian drummers and Native American dancers.
Wow.
Anything can happen at Balls. It's at midnight at the Southern Theater and has been for the last 25 years.
Oh, wow.
And she's a musician. So she has a lot of musicians come, and she has, this might just be hearsay, but this is the story about Leslie Ball, which is she's one of these women who you meet and like yourself is very beautiful. And just like people are fascinated, like Leslie
Let's
Ball.
focus on that. Do you really think I'm pretty?
You really think I'm pretty? What's happening?
No, I am. Why do we have to talk about Leslie Balls?
Right. Leslie Ball does balls, and it's supposed to be balls out, right? And she dated Elvis Costello and Billy Bragg.
Oh, at the same time?
No, different. But supposedly Elvis Costello wrote a song about her, and there's like all this weird. But her life you remind me of her. And so when I moved here, you very much reminded me. And she's very cool. Oh. It's a flattering comparison.
Oh, thank you.
In other news, let's keep talking about you.
Okay. So I love a flattering comparison.
Yeah. But it's a lot like that where she was the alternative to the alternative. And there was my favorite episode of Balls was, I think it was the curator of the Guthrie or the art museum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Guthrie.
And he was drunk and it was his birthday. And he came dressed as Cher and stuck a vibrator up his butt. And that was performance art.
Right.
And we were all like, no, actually it isn't. But I love you. You're trying something. And he was very drunk and he played a Cher song and he was wearing a skirt and he took a vibrator. And we don't know if he stuck it up his butt because thank you God, we didn't have to see it. But the entire Minnesota audience had a very Minnesota moment of when it was over of this sort of half weird clap. And the only honest reaction was Maria Bamford. It was in 1992 or 3.
Oh, you guys knew each other back there.
Yeah. And so there was this silence of this weird clap and then dead silence. And then in the middle of it, Maria Bamford goes, "Oh my God." And it was performance art, but it was genuinely an honest reaction to, because that was the reaction we were all having inside.
That's funny. No, when I was in Minneapolis, I met David Byrne at some opening.
Oh, that's neat.
Yes, I learned a good lesson. I don't know what, I said to him, "Oh, it was really great to meet you, blah, blah." I was there performing. And I was like, and I said, "I really love Talking Head 77. Why do you say that to somebody? The first thing they did. Oh my God." Well, anyway,
that's
a good lesson to learn when you're young.
I think
don't ever say that to someone. The first thing they did. I love that thing you did when you were still good.
I met Walter Koenig, and
who's that?
He played Chekhov on Star Trek.
Oh,
and because he's Danielle Koenig's dad, and Danielle Koenig is married to Jimmy Pardo.
Oh,
and she's a writer and a comic, and she is very sweet. But he came to see a show, and it was at Luna Park in the basement. And I was like, would you be willing to introduce me to your dad? And she's like, "Yes, I will introduce you, Jackie. You got to keep it together." And she was very sweet. And so, but I did say, I said something just as queer, which is just, I just said to him, "I really appreciate your work." And he did that eye slide of famous people I can't actually make eye contact. Thank you. I got to move on with my life. And he was just very polite, but it was, I felt like such an idiot.
Well, you learn these lessons, and I have to say, I have had the great good fortune of spending some time with Joni Mitchell over the past couple of months.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I spent New Year's Eve with her, and
might want to dork out?
First I'm trying to get her to uncab out.
Yeah, you got to get her to uncab first. There's a chain of
She
command.
is such an amazing storyteller. It's just beyond her storytelling skills.
Oh yeah.
But I keep that David Byrne lesson in mind.
Right, keep it together. Everybody's human. Everybody's insecure. Everybody's working on their next project.
Just learn. I have to say one thing about doing uncab for me is I have learned to listen a lot better. I feel like one of my life lessons is listen. As a born talker as you are.
Yeah.
Over the past few years too, I've been doing a lot less on stage this year. I mean, I really tried to embrace my role as producer. What would it take to really make this show successful? Like really
just even better and
even better, to keep a weekly show going. I mean, to produce,
fill the room
fill the room. I mean, there's like so many jobs. I mean, I'm not complaining. It's the same world we're all living in.
Right.
You do it too. You're a producer, you're a booker, you're a promoter, you're a performer, you're a writer,
Right.
It's, and sometimes people will say, why don't you blah, 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 blah. And I just say, oh, that's great. Do you want to do it with me? I mean, it's just like, I'd love to do podcasts. Like I really want to have like a podcast from Uncabaret where we have backstage stuff and I interview people. I'm like, I really want to do it. I think it's such a key to the success of Uncabaret.
It would be an amazing addendum. I mean, it'd be a great addendum.
I don't know how I could do it myself. So I'm looking for a partner.
What you need is someone to work on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I need a partner. I need a partner. I think it'd be great. So, but meanwhile we did these, and at the same time, this year producing these weekly shows and to produce these 4 episodes for Amazon.
Right.
And to learn how to be a producer video
producing and,
Greg Miller and I produced together for all those years and then we split up. So it's like, okay, wow, this is going to be a lot. Hosting, producing, and, I'm doing it with Mitch and he's a producer also. So it's not alone. Right. But, there was, we had other producer with us.
And you have a team, but there's so much work involved.
There's just so much work involved.
And everybody's always suggesting the new thing. It's like, have you thought about skywriting? Yes.
Yeah, you could do that with Uncabaret. Somebody suggested the other day, which I thought was a great idea. Have footage from the old days and then, have like a before and after.
Right.
And I was like, that's a great idea. Do you want to do it? She's like, I have a full-time job at the Tonight Show.
Does anyone want to go through hundreds and hundreds of hours of...
Well, we do have this footage that Dayton Farris, who shot Little Miss Sunshine, they shot for one of the key years at Luna Park, and they're working on a documentary. Then they got pregnant with twins, and then they said, bye. But after Little Miss Sunshine, they have said, they're going to work on it. And there's some talk of them coming back. But it's our 25th anniversary this year. Okay. So I keep thinking we should do something big. Something big. Something big.
Let's build something.
Well, I guess something big would be to just try to put these Amazon episodes out and have people actually watch them and see them.
Now, so you did 4 of them.
We did 4 of them.
And you just did them,
We just did them over the summer.
And then you might do another 4.
Well, there could be it could be.
Or a 5th.
Or it could become a weekly thing or a monthly thing. What does the market bear? What would an ongoing series be? Right. I mean, to me, that's a more appropriate. And they would like to do it this way too, not to do 4 and put them out. I think that was hard. But we did 1 and they loved it. And then they were like, we'll do 3 more and then we'll see. We don't want to just put up 1. And then, what would it take? There was a little bit of experimentation. Like, what does it take to make them? Yes. What would the process be? Because it's not like shooting another show. Because we didn't create a show to be shot. We were, in a sense, making mini documentaries of shows that really existed. Yeah. So there's and the budgets were so small, so you don't have full-time people. And so what does it really take to make that, reality?
Right. So, the bare bones kind of thing. You saw the very basic of how it could be done.
Learning. So much learning, and then we did some backstage stuff and how to integrate the backstage stuff with the on-camera stuff and what kind of editing it takes to make these very organic, 12-minute sets, 10 to 15 minute sets. So
have you been learning how to direct and how to...
I didn't direct because, I've been learning. I've learned a lot.
You must be seeing everybody's...
Yes, I'm seeing everybody's jobs and... a lot of the directing of this stuff, it's not like directing a film where you're you are making shots. There's shot making.
But it's shot catching more than shot making.
Yes. Well, you are
so live.
Yes. We were in the venue. We chose the shots because we chose the venue and blah, 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 blah. Right. I think the lighting, we still, didn't quite the sound. There's a lot of tech. There's so much tech.
Well, were you drawn to any of it? Like,
other
I want to
jobs?
learn more. Yeah. Of those jobs that you wanted to learn more about.
I'd like to learn more about the jobs that I am already doing.
You're like, I'd like to be good at these things. I don't actually need to learn how to edit audio.
I definitely do not want to edit. I definitely do not want to direct. I definitely do not want to, I like
it's the technical stuff that kind of makes your head go crazy.
Yeah. And it's already with the websites and the this and then that. We're already, I'm already doing, peaking my meter on the amount of tech that has to be done. I'm like,
are you doing your own website? Like uncabaret.com?
I do. I run it, but, I actually am right now having it redesigned. So it's going from a Drupal website, which is for all tech people, it's like much more technical to a WordPress website, which will be a lot easier. But but there's been a
easier
lot
to
of
integrate.
Yeah, a lot easier to keep up, and I know like a little bit of coding, and I don't do that much. I do some blogging, and I do but
this guy Vilmos does my website, and he's got it set up so that I can just change the calendar by myself, which is good.
Yeah, I'll be able to blog easily, and the Twitter feeds directly into it, and all of that. But it's been the setting up of it. I love working with people and sort of making a team.
Okay.
I learned that I do really love that part of my job.
Yeah.
And, bringing people together. I'd like to do more of the writing and performing that I love. I'd like to do more of the interviewing that I love. I'd like to do more of the producing. Yeah, I wish, I'm working on like the next book and,
What's the last book?
The last book was called Did I Wake You? Haiku for Modern Living.
That's right. It was the haiku book.
That's
awesome.
And then I do the writing and that stuff actually all came from performing. I had I moved into this house and I moved into, my office, and I had literally a 3-foot stack of Uncabaret material. It was new material like every week. And I was like, I know there's a book in there. Like there's got to, I'm going in that office and I'm not coming out till I have the book. And I thought I'd come out with like, am I running with scissors or something, And I came out and I was like, it's a book of haiku. Why, Santa? Why
have I been set up to put out a poetry book in this day and age?
Literally, I went through my writing, and it was like some I had written on purpose, a few, but then I had all this material that when I looked at it on the page, my stand-up looks like poetry. When I write my stand-up, it doesn't look like, when I write pieces, I do another show called Say the Word, and I write in memoir form, and I do that.
Right.
But that's like a little bit of a different voice.
Is that a storytelling? Were you
That is a reading night, yes.
It's a reading night?
I wanted to reach out to performers who, we know all these, like, you do too, all these great TV writers who are so funny. Yeah. But not quite
stand-up-y.
Yes. Yeah. But personal. They wanted to write personal pieces. Yeah. So that work, so then there's some crossover, Kevin Nealon does it, and Dana Gould and Moshe Kasher. So there's like crossover, but then there's also people like John Canale who would never do stand-up, and Winnie Holtzman, so all sorts of different people.
Right. Well, that's neat.
So that used to be, so that's another show. We do that at the Skirball. And, but I had my show 100% happy 88% of the time. That is the show.
That's the solo show?
That's the solo show. And I was working on that book. We were talking before when we were off the Dork Forest, just in life, about the crash, the economy crash. And the effect. I wrote that proposal. I'm a really good agent at William Morris, and sent it out. She said, I'm going out to everyone, very confident, blah, blah. And like every single person wrote back and was like, love the writing. Nothing bad enough happens in this book.
Right. There is a dream out there for every sad sack memoir has to be a sad sack memoir. But Laurie Kilmartin, have you read that How to Be a Shitty Mom?
That's good.
It was great.
This was like about eviction, and all the editors were like, eviction? That's not bad. What's so bad about being evicted?
Moshe Kasher's thing is just such a goddamn nightmare. One after another. Right. So then,
but you know what happened when this is the blessing of rejections. When I heard that, it was like nothing bad enough happens in this book. I was like, in my heart, I knew something bad enough is going to happen. It was just hearing that. It was really the strangest thing, and I didn't know what it was going to be, but I was like, oh, things are about to go wrong.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And they did. It was really crazy.
Are you writing that book?
If I could ever have 15 minutes from, sending out emails and tweets about who's on the show next week.
Right.
I have started to write, when I was a little in the middle of it, there was the leaving the house and, the breakup and the leaving of the house and, such amazing 2 years of chaos.
Right.
Really
building character right and left.
Yes. And so many miracles even while it was happening, so much movement and so many people showing up and new people and
that's neat.
Yeah. Oh my God. Meeting new people and forming, new friendships and seeing who's really there. And it's really like, I'm so grateful for these 2 years, and I'm hoping that it's almost over. But it's very ironic to come to understand your own misery while you're in the middle of doing a show called 100% Happy 88% of the time. Learning to act. act.
Right. I mean, people consistently say, well, how do you do stand-up comedy if you're sad or if you're in a bad mood? And I'm like, well, I tend to do stand-up comedy about being sad or being in a bad mood.
Right.
And, mixed reviews on the results of the audience. But then I do the rest of my act, which, is all true and is guaranteed. It's guaranteed. What I tend to do is I tend to open with a new joke and then, the newest thing that's working.
Right.
Because I like the rush of doing a new joke.
Right.
So,
and also you're in the moment. I mean, you know what?
It's more fun.
I teach, and what I tell, students is always like the reason people go to stand up is to be in the moment with someone.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise you could just watch TV.
You could just watch it on TV.
Yeah.
Have you heard Emo Phillips' joke about the difference between live comedy and...
I haven't.
Emo Phillips says you gotta see comedy live. You do. If you see comedy on television, it's like incest, where you've given up quality for convenience.
Oh my God.
Emo's going to be on the show.
Oh,
I'm pretty
good.
psyched about that.
That's going to be interesting.
His dorkdom, the palpable intelligence of Emo Phillips when you're even talking to him.
Wow.
Is brutal, where you're just like, you get a wave of just, where you're like, dude, do you have a PhD? Or did you just, I mean, he's
now, I
genuinely.
only know him from his early work. Is he a storyteller also?
He does do some storytelling, but his stuff is so weird. He would be great for Uncap.
Would he?
Yeah, I think he would.
This is how it happens.
This is how it happens. Beth Lapides, this is how it happens. It's been an hour.
Oh no!
I know it.
Oh!
We didn't even talk about yoga. There was some talk that we were going to talk about yoga.
I knew we wouldn't get to yoga.
We didn't get to.
That's our second hour.
Our second hour.
Yeah, when you run out
will
of
be
guests.
about how you dipped yourself in the rising bread dough of yoga for many years, and now you're done.
I know. I lived it. I owned with Joni Mitchell on New Year's Eve. That's my new yoga.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
that's pretty sweet.
Off the mat.
Rangers of the Dork Forest, you have been uncabbed, and it was great. Hey, when this drops, everyone should know I'm going to be in Toronto doing a live Dork Forest. I will have just been in New York City doing a live Dork Forest. All of my stand-up sets obviously available, JackieCation.com, on the calendar page, the show page, the live page, whatever the hell it's called. I forget what Vilmos has called it. Anyway, Toronto, and then Indianapolis, Broad Ripple. Outside of Indianapolis at the Crackers or something just like that. And then I'm home, back in LA for a while. Another live The Dork Forest, January 28th. I'm speculating about who that guest will be, but it'll be January 28th, 7:30 at the Nerd Melt here in Los Angeles. Thanks a lot. Bye.
My hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?